All right, hello everyone. Let's all find our seats. Thank you for coming today to the Art Forum. We have an amazing guest speaker for us. But before we begin, we have a lot of announcements and happenings going on this weekend in the art department. Students, please make sure you sign in to achieve your Art Forum credit. Grant Sharpen here got a credit. You all better get your credits. An audience, please think of any questions that you have for our speaker and save those for after the presentation. I have a lot of announcements to make, but does anyone else have any announcements? Alrighty. So the Olive Prima Paint-Off event is happening on Friday, April 19th. This will be an exciting painting competition that students participate in. Sign up to compete will be due by next Friday, April 12th. So all of you amazing painters, sign up. Watch our social media and stay tuned for more details early next week. And everyone is allowed to come and watch. We have senior shows happening in the Gilson and Epping galleries for Brian Vasquez, Echo, Faye, and Ellen Wickersham. We also have the annual student juried exhibition in the Salon des Refugiés. The Salon des Refugiés is happening at the Trox Gallery, and the juried exhibition is going to be at the Emporia Art Center. Please join us right after this at the Emporia Art Center in the Trustword Gallery at 5:15 for the Art Program Scholarship Awards. We will be awarding a total of $63,000. That's incredible. We will also be announcing the Best in Show and honorable mentions there at the EAC. So students and everyone else, right after this, head over to the EAC. Also happening this weekend is the Glass Guild Annual Blowout. Glass Guild demonstrations will run 9 to 12. We're going to have a short break for lunch, and then be back 1 to 4 doing hot glass demonstrations. Directly afterwards, we will hold a live auction with some incredible pieces up for bidding. Please come on out, enjoy some hot glass, and bring your cash or checks to bid on some of these amazing glass pieces. All right, and now, let me introduce. For my first year being in charge of Blowout, I already knew the person I wanted to invite to the hot shop right away, and that is William Haynes. Our time at ESU overlapped just briefly, but even still, Will was such an inspiration for me. Not really having a clue of what working with glass is about, watching how Will worked in the studio and seeing the amount of effort he put towards his education showed me the path to being a dedicated student. It didn't stop after school with Will either. Seeing him continue to grow and find success outside of school gave me the hope that this is a field that you can really build a life around. A true inspiration. It takes more than being a great glass blower. Will is such an amazing person and he cares so much about this program. So Will graduated, I don't know when, but 12 years ago maybe, but he hasn't missed maybe only one glass blowout since then. He's always traveling back to his hometown, checking out and supporting the glass department, which is super amazing. And this whole week has been wonderful in the studio. Will brought all of his buddies from PGC. Thank you, Sam. And having the students be able to watch and be a part of a real team of glass blowers was so freaking cool. Let's give a warm welcome back to William Haynes.
Make sure the technology works. I told myself I wasn't going to cry while I was doing this, and Kale didn't make it very easy. Getting emotional in my old years. The work over there. All right. It's not like I wasn't nervous enough to begin with. I haven't done an artist talk in a couple of years, but usually it's to a room of strangers, and there's a lot of familiar faces out there, so. All right. So, William Haynes. The first thing that I had to figure out when Kale invited me to do this was what my name was going to be on the poster. People call me Will now. I grew up as Willie. He said, let's go with William. It's pretty easy. So I was born in New Mexico. We moved here when I was about 10. This is me and my sisters. It's pretty fun. Elsie and Barbara are both here today. Couldn't be happier. When we moved to Kansas, I don't know if it happened initially, but I got lost for a while. Grew into this listless young gentleman, very pensive. The hairline's receding a bit, that's for sure. But I didn't really know what I was doing with my life. I got to college. I went to school for graphic design initially. Just because it seemed like a way that I could be creative and end up getting a job. It seemed like, I don't know who told me, but they told me I could make a bunch of money being a graphic designer. And then I took glass as an elective, and Patrick went around the room and was like, how many of you in here are glass majors? And I raised my hand. And he's like, you're not on my list. And I was like, I should be. There's got to be some clerical here. Yeah, he helped me change my major that day, and it's the first thing in my life that ever really gave me any direction. I fell in love with it initially, first gather. Sorry, I'm just trying not to cry. But it helped that I was really good at it initially. I think that was because I loved what I was doing. I fell in love with the Venetian style of glass blowing, as everybody does, like all the glass students I've been working with this week. Everybody goes through a goblet phase. This is the first pair of cups I ever made, even though they're not a pair. Well, I mean, kind of. Everything's a little bit different, but all the elements are there. We got to start somewhere. This was sort of later in my college career. This is the first show that I was ever in. It was at Malinik Gallery in Kansas City. Patrick, again, was always very good at taking care of the students and giving us every opportunity that he could. This is not something that you usually get to do in college, is be involved in a show that you're invited to be involved in outside of the university. Really, all I did for years in college was just make Venetian style cups. Roberta can tell you that. It gets old after a while, but it's a lot of fun. Like I've been emphasizing to you all week. Everything is important. The important thing is that you then move that into other things. Also in that show was probably I didn't do hardly any sculpture unless Pat made us. So this was a sand casting project, but this is the first time that I sort of started playing with sculpture. Black and white is something I've always used in a lot of my work. It's a lot about like seeing things from the other side. It's the ultimate juxtaposition. So this is the other side of that. There's a black chair on a white floor, white chair on a black floor. They're both looking at the same thing, but it's completely different from both sides. I thought it was super heady at the time. I thought it broke. The internet wasn't as big as it is now. I thought I'd broken something. It just turned out that eventually that thing broke. So, but it's a start. So after college, another thing that I've emphasized to you all week is that you got to find a way to have access to a studio. Glass blowing is not a cheap thing. It is very expensive. So I figured, coming from somewhat limited means, that the best way for me to do that was going to be help learn how to run a studio. So I went to the Pittsburgh Glass Center. Pay attention to this photo. It's going to change a lot by the end of this whole presentation. This is what it looked like when I moved there in 2012. It's a nonprofit glass educational facility in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It taught me how to run a studio. I didn't learn necessarily how to build everything while I was there, but I made a lot of connections. I learned the ins and outs of what it takes to, run a facility from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Classes, workshops. Got to meet a lot of great artists coming through there, and I fell in love with the place. So my goal was to always end up there. Turns out I was still a little bit listless. Didn't get a job when I applied for it there. I applied to be the technician when I was done with my apprenticeship, and I didn't get it. Another good friend of mine did. So I had to move on. This is some of the work that I made while I was there. Again, playing with the ideas of black and white. This piece is called One. Chess is a big thing in me. It's a great metaphor for social stratification, haves, have-nots. So this is the idea. It's just like, you know, the pawn is the biggest thing in this piece. Also, the 6 is going to get lost in the base, and then the 1 becomes, the 1 dice that's separated is flipped up, so it kind of becomes the most, like it's the winning hand, even though it's not the winning hand in most card games, or dice games. These are some cuts that I made, collaborating with my friend Emlyn. Going back to traveling, taking classes, doing stuff like this. I made these in Granite Kalimpong's class. Up to that point, these were the nicest cups that I've ever made. Sort of like when I left the other day and you told me that you made the nicest straight wall cup you'd ever made. I made these in Granite's class. So the fascination with Venetian glassware is still there, moving up through this point. Now I've got to leave Pittsburgh, and I'm like, what do I do? So I hear that there's a woman in Dallas that needs a studio built. Skip this guy. So I moved to Dallas, and I built a studio for Carlin Ray. She's in the middle there. Also notice some of these photos are terrible. Get good photos. You all have nice phones. Obviously that's me with the thumbs up in the back. That was when I was running a lot, super skinny. So let's get back to that. Also hairline better there as well. But this was my first production job. So I moved there. I made all Carlin's work. I was her head gaffer. I was her lead technician. I was her studio manager. I had a conversation with her my second week there, and I was like, we both know this isn't the last job I'm ever going to have, but I'm going to try and get everything I can out of it while I'm there. So we worked on a lot of her production work, things like this. This is a chandelier. It's at the Bowen House in Dallas, Texas. So I dropped out every one of those things. Standing on a bench like this, I'm surprised that my rotator cuff is still functional. There's a better way to do that, which we figured out later. But it was tough. So I dropped every one of those out. I cold worked them all, everything like that. The other thing that she does is she pulls a lot of cane, so I'd spend weeks pulling flat cane. But production job, very important, working for other people. And this applies across arts. You want to find somebody that you can work for that's paying you to get better. I didn't learn a lot of technical skill at that job, but what I did learn was a lot of hand skill. Like, my hands have a great memory and I don't really have to think with them anymore. Like I've told you all week, all I ever wanted to do was think about what I wanted to make and then make it, not how I was going to make it. So this job gave me a lot of that. Once my time had run its course in Dallas, kind of hopped around the Midwest a little bit. And when I first kind of started figuring out what it was that I wanted to make, this is in St. Louis. So this is at Third Degree Glass Factory. They're phenomenal at giving the artists that work there a place to display their work, which really allowed me to explore kind of some production items of my own. I'm coming out of Carlin's studio, taking some of the things that I've learned there, and I'm trying moving into creating my own stuff. So I didn't make a lot of this week. I've been making that same kind of trumpety shaped vase since I was college. Since I was in college, they just keep getting better and better. This is a set of cups. Again, cups, love them. You learn really quickly that you can't make a living making them, because you can go to Crate and Barrel and buy 6 glasses for $20, and I think I charged $60 for each one of these. So it was somebody who really, really wanted it. But again, you can see like things are getting better. This is where I'm learning to do the straight stems and everything like this. But all of the work that I've done up to this point has allowed me to create that. I've simplified things. I've kind of brought it back. Sorry if I'm mostly speaking to the glass people here. I've been spent a week with them, so that's kind of my comfort zone right now. Again, with that, it's like learning different techniques. In every art form, there's tips, tricks. I call it cheating because it is in some ways. Champagne flutes are really hard to make off the pipe and make them look nice. So this is the first time I ever hot popped anything. Hot popping is where you kind of blow something up and you score it, you break it with a torch, and then you fire polish the lip. Anything that you buy at a store, you'll notice it's kind of got a rounded lip. That's because it's fire polished. You can do that in what we do also. This is another production item that I was toying with at the time. You'll probably recognize it if you've seen one of the posters outside. This is like sort of, again, figuring out where I'm going with my production work and everything like that. This is the first time I was like, oh, I'm gonna put a ring in it. Clear lip wrap starts showing up a lot. That thing's about this big. So again, like pushing scale, like starting small, figuring things out on a small scale before you start moving into larger items. Also, this is something that I would be able to sell for like maybe 40 bucks. The big ones are a lot more than that. After that, I moved back to Pittsburgh. This is where I try not to cry. So I worked my entire 20s to be eligible for the job that I didn't get. And when I was 30, I applied to be the studio manager. I didn't think that I would be eligible for that job. Probably mid in my 30s, but I got it. So I got to move back to Pittsburgh. It's a beautiful city. I love it. I've really built a life there. Coolest thing about it is that I get to meet awesome people like Sam, Zach, Bully, and they become friends. I hire these people straight out of college or briefly after. Bully, these are the funniest pictures I could find of these guys. So, Bully was here yesterday helping me out. Sam's been here all week helping me out. But I also get to see and meet artists. Like Janusz Pozniak, he was here a few summers ago. He's been my biggest mentor. So getting to see him come into the studio and work with people like Sam, I'm really lucky. Like I get to see all these people, they come to me. Like I don't have to travel to go take classes or anything like that. I get to see these people every summer. So it's a special place in my heart, if you can't tell. On top of all of that, you get to learn how to do a lot of things there. I know how to fix everything in the building. We get to handle a lot of artwork. I get to pack and ship a lot of artwork. This is the correct way to pack a pallet. This is not the correct way to pack a pallet. That's like $125,000 worth of artwork. And I didn't pack it, but it showed up to us like that. That panel that's bent sideways is not supposed to be sideways. But this is another thing. Just like if you're trying to get stuff out of your space, like all the little things matter. Like packing a pallet, I put as much emphasis in as I do my artwork. If somebody else is going to see that pallet, it's all they know about me. This is like taking good photos, everything like that. It better show up and it better look awesome. This is Ron the dog. That's a puppy. So one of the cooler things that we do every year at the Glass Center is we have a fundraiser called Our Own Fire. There is 40 world-class glass artists represented in that gallery. One person comes every year. It's a big party. But this is one of the reasons that I love the Glass Center, is because people get to come to me. I've worked myself into a really, really good position where I don't have to pay for a studio. I don't have to travel to see my friends. A lot of them, most, like all of you artists that have to travel to, but I have a lot of friends that come to me. And I get to be the person that they have to talk to. Like for months, I'm communicating with them. I'm like, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? So in addition to being an artist, I've become a really, really good facilitator and administrator. Art is a hard thing to make a living at. If you can find a way to make a living in the arts that helps facilitate your being an artist, it makes life a lot easier. Being an artist, you don't have a retirement plan, none of that. I've got a 401k, it's great, everything's good. But wherever you're at, if you're a printmaker, if you're a glass artist, if you're a painter, having a facility that you can work at and then get free studio time is a huge benefit. Whether that's a university, whether that's an art center like this, whether it's a painting studio on Main Street in small town USA. I found it to be a huge benefit. Obviously, there's a million different ways to do that. This is just what has worked for me. Also, Rhonda is ridiculously cute. She's in town somewhere. Find her. All right, so now we're up to recently. So 2 years ago, we realized that we had really outgrown our space. We've been operating capacity for about 5 years. So we raised about $13 million, and we decided that we were going to double the size of all of our spaces. So this is basically, I don't know, the first week of construction. Notice how small the building that looked pretty cool to begin with looks now. So this is kind of midway through last year. The cool thing about this whole process is that we've had to figure out how to stay open to the public so we can keep making money while we've got a ridiculously large construction project going on. We're almost through it, so I can't say we crushed it, but I feel like we're crushing it. This is what it looked like about a week before I came on this trip. It's almost done. We've got that sweet sawtooth window that's in a classroom. All that glass was donated by Pittsburgh Glass. We've got really good relationships throughout the community. So as much as I've been preaching to you guys about personal relationships all week, as you kind of grow into a professional, you'll start building relationships with organizations and corporate entities and everything like that. Leverage is a bad word for it, but that's kind of what it is. It's like you'll be able to leverage that into making those relationships beneficial for everybody. All right, so now to the nice photos. They're very expensive. Pay people to take photos. I know that everybody's got a nice phone. You should be documenting your work as much as you can with your nice iPhone camera. It's worth it to pay somebody to take your photos. There's a slide coming up that will showcase that pretty heavily. But, so these, it started out as that small production item, and they've kind of grown into more sculptural vessels. I try to display them in pairs or in threes. I find that as a maker, it's a lot more fun to make things in different sizes. Again, it's challenging, finding ways to, keep yourself interested in the art form. This is some cane work. So, it's plaid. Riticello's a pain. I found it's a lot easier, and I can make a lot of pretty things by working the bubbles out of it and just finding a vessel that displays the pattern nicely. I found that teardrop shape, notice there's no fold in this one, is a great vessel to display the pattern. So this thing's probably not that big. And then this goes back to what I was just saying, finding little ways to keep yourself interested in the art form. One of the things you have to do as any artist, especially as a glass artist, is figuring out some production items that are going to make you some money. They're quick. I can make a bunch of these. If I'm working with one other person, I can probably make 6 of these in an hour. But there's little elements. I make them as thin as I possibly can, so it's continually challenging. That folded foot, I nail about 6 out of 10 of them, so there's always something to keep you coming back. And then that disc on the bottom is based on a Venetian style thing called an avolio, where you have to coil glass onto the bottom of it. So every one of these things I make, even though it's a production item, I get to practice things that I'm more interested in. This is sort of some elevated barware. This I put in here just to kind of talk about being intentional in design. You want to know why you're making things the way that you make it. So I designed these specifically to drink whiskey out of. You can put that thing in the freezer. That ball makes a really nice cold sink. I don't particularly like my whiskey neat. I like 1 or 2 cubes in there. But this decanter set I've sold a few of them, and it's been in 4 or 5 different drinkware shows. People seem to like it. So this is probably the best example of why it's good to pay somebody that's good at Photoshop and to take your photos. There's a video out there somewhere on the internet of Sam helping me make this thing. It's about 36 inches tall, weighs about 30 pounds, and it's broken. So when we were making this, so this is when I got talking to you guys about pushing yourselves out of your comfort zone. If you're not uncomfortable, you're not learning anything. That applies across the board. It's really easy as you're growing up at becoming an artist to settle into what's comfortable. It helps having friends that will look at you and just be like, let's go, let's do more, throw another gather on it. Sometimes it gets you into trouble, but when we were making this thing, the head of the biggest blowpipe that they make broke off of the blowpipe, and it hit the floor and it broke into 3 pieces. I later glued it back together. I can never enter it or submit it to anything because that would be extremely dishonest since it's broken. But Sandra, my photographer, made it look like this. She's a wizard. This is not the most recent thing I've made, but it's the most recent artwork that I've put together. I called it Once in Future. Again, it's using chess as sort of an allegory for life. And the idea that, you know, the pawn makes it across the board, it's become the queen, but the queen kind of recedes into the background. And then I had my buddy Josh, again, leveraging relationships. I paid him. He's a phenomenal woodworker. He worked for a cabinet making company. He made a box really shallow to my specifications. He charged me, I paid him more than he charged me for it. We'll say that he charged me way too little. And then I underlit it with an LED. So I've been thinking about incorporating light and underlighting these, especially the chess pieces that are crackled for a long time, and this is the first time I've done it. But I'm pretty happy with it. So, yeah, I mean, that's my journey in a nutshell. I just got to end on this because it'll keep me from crying. I did make it, but again, this is Rhonda. She's around town somewhere. Find her, she loves you already. So, I appreciate your time and attention greatly. It's been a real pleasure to be back here this week. I'm not going to cry. I'm not doing it. All right. But, like Kale said, we've been making some really nice stuff down there all week. The auction was off last year, but we're bringing it back. So we're going to have a lot of really nice artwork down there. I'll be working with some of my friends and the students all day. Please come down and check it out. I love nothing more than sharing the things that I love with people, and then also selling them to keep this program alive. Please, if you have any space, time, attention, cash, just come down and place that where you will throughout the day. And yeah, I don't know, it's a huge honor, Kale. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this. I'm glad it's gone well. Thank you guys for your questions and your attention. And we're going to crush it tomorrow. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions? Nothing? What?
So, what outlets do you use to sell your work? You sell to galleries or your website?
So I get a lot of commission work through the Glass Center, and then there's a couple local places that I have some work, and then I enter a lot of regional shows. So most of it, I'm working on a website right now, but it's like I have a full-time job as an administrator, so it's, you know, I make a lot of extra income, but it's like I don't have, since I'm in a comfortable position, I really get to focus on what I'm doing. But it's like, you know, it's regional shows, and then the Glass Center has a phenomenal gallery also that I sell a lot of my work at. So that place is really like, checks a lot of boxes for me. It's like they sell my work, I get to make my work, I get to see all my friends, everything like that. So, anything else, Dr. Lee?
So, you just mentioned the administrator skills.
Yes.
So, in the art world, as you look across, you know, the country, are there other potential opportunities that you might think about administratively?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I always kind of plan on going back to grad school. It's hard to do without a graduate degree in like a university setting or anything like that. And I'm very glass centric. Like my brain is a wealth of knowledge of all things glass industry. If you need to know where to buy refractory or source batch or anything like that. So there are other glass studios, especially like, you know, the Glass Center is a really, really high level one. So I'm hopeful that my position there can grow into something. But ideally it's like, you know, I would love to be the director of operations at a larger glass school or another art facility. And then, I don't know, my partner Kristen, who's also here, just got a sweet job that might actually afford me the opportunity to maybe go back to grad school also. So, you know, when I got that job when I was 30, I kind of had to form new goals. Because it's like that was my goal for a long time. So I'm still in the process of figuring that out. But I think that definitely might be part of it. So thank you for the question. Anybody else?
Where do you find your dog?
What? Where do you find? She'll be around tomorrow for sure. So
Like without you?
no, she'll be with Kristen or my little sister or somebody, but she will be meeting people vigorously, I'm sure. But yeah, it's one more reason to come down to the art annex tomorrow is that Rhonda will be there. So, mother.
Did you mention that you have things in trucks?
Oh, I've got a couple things out of the trucks also. Thank you very much. Support Kayla, she's amazing. Cool. Anybody else? You? it was the coolest thing I ever touched. It's like I was good at it. Like, I mean, I feel like a painting's that way for a lot of people, printmaking's that way, drawing. Like, I was never really, I didn't realize that I was an artistic person until I did it. Like, I messed around with glass. I should have known, because in high school there was a torch in the jewelry room that Miss Spade could not get me away from. But I never really took it as seriously as a viable way of like making a way in the world. And then, I mean, I think that a lot of us in this room owe a lot to our professors in college of making us understand that it's like, if you commit yourself to doing this and you put the time and attention and focus into it, it's, you know, there's a reason there's artists out there, and they all start somewhere. So I just got really lucky that I took a gather and it was pretty even, and then I made a lot of really bad cups that I thought were amazing. And then it's like, I kept finding ways to help it fascinate. And, you know, it's really easy to let things get stale. But with glass specifically, I always found a way that like the next thing was always a challenge, and it continued to be that way. So. Cool. Sam.
Where do you see the chess pieces kind of evolving into as far as like your thought process with how you make them and the direction that you see them kind of?
Well, I used to make a lot of them blown, and then working solid is really, really relaxing compared to blowing glass. But I really have appreciated the optical quality of them. One thing I probably will never do is make a full set of them, because that's the first thing everybody asks me. Also, to me, that's not what it's about. So it's like, I think that, I don't know, it's like I need to write some stories in my head if I want to start making the other pieces and figuring out like how they apply. But I think I'm just going to keep making them solid and bigger and incorporating a lot of light. I think that's sort of the next thing I'm going to do, is start playing with light and shadow and probably making some more solid with color incorporated, obviously black and white. But thank you for the question. Cool. Mark?
Does the grapple of the pond hold any conceptual significance?
Yeah, it does. So it's like, especially on that last one, which is like once in future, it's the idea that sort of, it lends itself to the idea of like becoming something more than you were. It's really easy to, you know, we are all individuals and we are all small individuals, but we're all very special as well. Like, you know, so the idea of like kind of breaking out of your shell and becoming the ultimate power piece on the board is, you know, especially in that piece, it does. But it lends a sense of, visually it lends a sense of fragility to the glass, which I don't think is really evident in solid glass, because it's very, very heavy and very, very present. So yes, short answer, I don't know if that explained it, but.
I didn't hear the question. Did you say grapple?
What?
Grapple?
No. Crackle.
Grapple.
Crackle. So basically that process, you get the whole thing hot when you dump in a bucket of water, and it crazes the surface. It also freaks people out because they just watch you make something for about 2 hours, and then you're like, bring me that bucket of water, and you dump it in there. Yeah. Especially if I don't tell my assistants what I'm going to do, it really freaks them. Anything else? Kayla.
What is the most important thing you think that current students at ESU should remember as they move through their years at ESU?
Whoa.
What's the big like?
I mean, I can really only answer that question for myself, I guess. But I think it's the relationships that you're making right now are going to be relationships that you have for the rest of your life. As you continue through the arts, the building blocks of everything that you're going to do from here on out, even if you decide to switch mediums or sing, even if you decide to switch mediums or anything like that, like it all builds on itself. Like there are elements of like, I don't know, like all the studio classes that I thought that I hated when I was in college because all I wanted to do was blow glass. Like it all comes back, whether I'm drawing or whether I'm thinking conceptually. So it's just like, I think the biggest advice is just like focus on what you're doing right now because it matters. Even the blow-off classes, the ones that you have to take, if you're not interested in drawing because you're a sculptor, like you are not anything, you are an artist. Take it all as seriously as you have the time to. Obviously, like I took 3 studio classes multiple times. You can't do it. You can't take 3 studio classes and give them all the appropriate attention. So give yourself a break. Take things longer. Take some time if you need to. It took me 5.5 years to get through school. I took extra classes. I never failed anything. And I still felt rushed. So paying attention to what you're doing and understanding that in 5 years you're going to look back on it and really understand that those are the building blocks of what got you to the next level or got you to where you're going. It's really easy to get caught up in the day-to-day of school life. But I'm not going to say the thing, well, dude, the best years of your life, or anything like that. But these are like, you are building your future. So just pay attention to that and don't take it for granted. All right, anything else? Cool. Going once. All right, sweet. Thank you guys.
To support the ESU Art Forum program, please visit emporia.edu/art. Click on the Events tab, scroll down to the Art Forum link and click. Then scroll down to the Support Art Forum button and click. Finally, choose your donation level and click on the Continue button to complete the process. We appreciate your support.